2,000 years ago, Jesus, on this very night, gathered with his disciples in the upper room, and they shared together what we call the Last Supper. But for them, it was just Passover. In the course of that evening, they would have gone through what we call the Seder. They would have read large portions of the book of Exodus and been reminded of the amazing deliverance that God brought to his people. In the course of that dinner, at some point, Jesus, as the host, would have dipped his finger into the cup and dripped out 10 drops of wine. With every one of those drops, he and the disciples around him would have recited and remembered each of the plagues that God brought on the people in Egypt until they got to that 10th plague. The greatest plague, the worst plague, the plague that said that all the firstborn sons in all the land of Egypt would die that very night, unless the people put their faith in the blood of a perfect, spotless male lamb. And those who did, God's people, took that blood and they put it on the door frames of their house. And that night, by their faith in the blood of the Lamb, God caused his angel to pass over their homes. And they were delivered from the plague. Everyone in that house got to live. On that Passover night 2,000 years ago, when they recounted those plagues and Jesus talked to his disciples about that act of deliverance, he turned the whole world on its head. Because he said to the disciples that there's actually a worse plague. There's a plague that is more insidious, that is more infectious. There's a plague that doesn't just take the life of the firstborn in a household. It is a plague that takes the life of all who are born. We know the name of that plague. It's sin. And on that night, Jesus said to the disciples that not only is there a greater plague, there's also a better lamb. One who would give body and blood, and still, through our faith in the blood of the Lamb, put on our lives, we get to live. Tonight, you're invited into a Maundy Thursday worship experience that's going to look very different than any we've ever had before. But it is about the same truth. Through songs, through prayer, through interactive prayer stations, what we're going to invite each one of us to do is to focus on two things. One, the plague that infects us all. We're going to talk about sin, and we're going to ask you to look very hard at your own, the sin in your life, the sin that infects your family or community and our world. But we're also going to take the opportunity to look very closely at the greater Lamb and discover that Jesus is also a better prophet, a better priest, a better king, that he's the one who brings life to all who place their faith in him. Now, the way you're going to do that tonight is pretty straightforward. We're going to ask you to follow the prayer guide that's been emailed to you. So after watching this video, you'll be invited to watch a music video and sing the glory of God. After that, there's 3 prayer stations, and they all are structured the same. You watch a very short video from myself or Pastor Greg that explains why we're inviting you to do what we're asking you to do. After the video, follow the prayer guide. Step by step, engage in the prayer station. Take as long as you need to so that you can talk to Jesus on your own, or if your family and friends are with you, to do so together. Before you engage on this adventure that we're all going to be on Maundy Thursday, let me give you one word of advice. I want you to do this tonight as if you're here with me, standing in our sanctuary. Not because this room is more sacred than your living room or kitchen or office or wherever you're doing this, but because if you were here with me tonight and we were gathered in the sanctuary, you would worship. If you're here with me tonight and your brothers and sisters in Christ were also here, no one would be able to reach you on your home phone. Your cell phone would be silenced and maybe even left in your car. Facebook would not be a distraction. So treat this like you're in the sanctuary with me. Unplug the home phone. They'll get you in an hour. I'd ask you to take your cell phone and put it on silent. Turn the notifications off. Put it in another room. Turn off the TV, and you're probably doing this on your computer, so close every other browser. A couple other things. If you were here with me tonight in the sanctuary, you wouldn't take a coffee break during the music. You'd stand up, you would sing, you'd lift your hands, and you'd encounter Jesus. You wouldn't fast forward through the videos, even though you probably wish you could fast forward through your preacher. You'd actually listen. So do that. And even though the prayer stations would probably feel a little awkward here, like they may feel a little awkward in your living room, you would engage them as an opportunity to worship Jesus. So tonight, pretend you're here as together we encounter Jesus.